Song of Mornius, Chapter 31. Tarek shifted closer to the fire. Gradually the sunlight warmed his face, but did nothing to melt the ice around his heart. Numbly he gazed at the foraging Shan. After a half-day of travel, the gorge had again widened. Here they had camped beside a small stand of trees. Among the hardy bluebark, the 6 Shan rose tall on their hind legs, pressing their colorful shaggy bulks against the gnarled trunks to shake them. Dead needles and cones pattered down from the brittle frozen branches. As one bounced off his sleeping guard's head, Tarek smiled. He savored the feeling. The death of his brother was still a fresh hurt. Now there was Virgin too, and the men who had given him their trust. Silva groaned where he lay and swatted at the air. Like Dren Avram, he slept fitfully, as though a part of him fought to stay conscious. Fatigue deepened the lines on his round, normally jovial face. "We're all tired," Tarek whispered, stifling a yawn. He straightened from the tall stump he leaned against and studied the small white clearing. Beyond the trees the slab of gray rock loomed, enforcing their route along the river. Above it climbed the roots of the glacier, its solid ice glistening bright. A bare-armed figure appeared from the empty air behind a tree. Tarek started, then sprang to his feet. Drawing his sword, he peered through the smoke. Pony. Tarek blinked his stinging eyes. Sheathing his sword, he moved quietly around the fire and his friends. Pony knelt behind the tree, out of sight from the sleepers by the fire. Joining him, Tarek crouched. Shaking back his long white hair, Pony gazed at his crystal staff, tapped its heel against the ice. "Welcome to my mountain, Commander Florn," he said. "You have done well. You have routed Malian's army." "Which is more than you have done." Tarek paused. He had not expected Pony to wince at his words. "Pardon me," said Tarek softly. "I'm as tired as my men." Flaring violet eyes watched his own. "I do what I can, Tarek Florn," Pony snapped. "I am alien to this world as you are. In sooth, I should not be here. Like the warders, I am too dangerous." Tarek studied him closely. "Why are you here?" Pony sighed. "Curiosity is how it started. It is a rare thing when a planet has magic, and rarer still when it lives longer than it should." "This is Sephram's doing," Pony said. "Talankai's warder." Glancing up, he squinted at the sun. "All stars must die, Tarek Florn. This one does not." "So you came to investigate?" Tarek followed the winged elf's gaze. He shook his head. "How? How did you get here?" A knowing smile curved Pony's lips. He flexed his wings, then lifted his crystal staff. "This, my staff of time." Tarek jumped as a cone struck his shoulder. He glanced at the tree beside him, and the 3-horned beast foraging around its trunk. "Now I am trapped here, like Halram," Pony said. "I will never see my home again." Watching him, Tarek caught the glint in his violet eyes, the slight tremor in his voice. "You have the elves here," he said gently. "The Connell elves?" Pony snorted. "Connell, yes. But I love the giants more. They see me as a friend. On their shores I am respected and treated as an equal. But the elves?" He shrugged. "I blame myself for it. I like to show off, and my skill frightened them. Except for my wings, I may look like them, Tarek Florn, but I am not them, and they know it. So I have no people, just the giants." Tarek leaned forward. The ache in Pony's voice touched his heart. "It must be hard," he said, "to feel so helpless and still have all that magic. But if you're so powerful, why don't you leave this place? Go home." Home. Pony's silvery brows furrowed as he slowly thumped the heel of his staff into the snow beside him. "Because Sephram is stronger. Warders are intelligent beings, Tarek Florn. They get bored. Through me, Sephram has discovered a way to view what happens here. I am his eyes and ears on this world. Now that he has me, I cannot hope he will ever let me go." Licking at his chapped lips, Tarek glanced toward the little fire and the body sleeping around it. "I wish you would help me, elf." He shuddered. Then he shot a hard glance at his winged companion. "Why are you here? Surely you didn't just come here to welcome us to your mountain. Do you mean to take Avalar home?" Pony groaned softly. He gazed at his staff, at the shifting layers within the clear crystal. "She does not wish to go. She is the daughter of a former slave who is also my friend, Leader Florn. Hers is the first generation after the slaves to not have direct knowledge of what bondage feels like. She will not learn that from me. And yet," he added quickly, "I am deeply concerned. Kildoran was correct. The valley you are about to enter could destroy her, and I don't mean physically. She will not call to me in that moment of need, so I will need you to." "Need me to what?" Tarek glanced again toward the camp, at Avalar's larger bulk curled beside the others. Wind lashed at the fire, flattening the flames against the wood. Sparks leapt and bounced to scatter a trail across the ice. "Call my name," Pony said simply. "If or when the time comes that you cannot control her." Eyes intense, Pony leaned forward and thumped his knee, rapped it again harder until Tarek turned his head and met his gaze. "You must," said Pony. "When battle comes, you will not get her to retreat. Her blood will quicken. You have never seen a giant fully blooded for war. They do not stop." Pony sat back, flaring out his wings behind him for emphasis. "I can stop her, or," he said, "should her memories take her and she loses herself to them, there will be no way for you to get her back. Call my name. Call my name and I will come take her home." With a shuddering sigh, Tarek stood and faced his men. As he did, the wind blasted, snuffing out the little fire. "He took my staff!" Florina faced the attendant first and fought to quell her trembling. Beyond him stood the open doorway of her chamber, a way to freedom she could not reach. "Why?" she demanded. "Does he think he can master it? Only I can make Veelermen." A slight frown tugged at the gray robe's pale lips. She watched him focus past her, at Gulgrin scurrying back and forth. Gulgrin was muttering to himself, lighting every candle he could. "Must stay useful," the young man panted under his breath. "Useful?" Ignoring him, Velrina planted her hands on her hips. "Why here?" she asked, glaring hard at her captor. "Why in my quarters of all places? If he's going to sacrifice me, there needs to be a ceremony. There needs to be an altar to catch my blood, and others to," she swallowed, "partake." She shuddered as the attendant's cold, flat eyes met hers. "This is all very sudden, priestess. None of us know what his plans are. What I know is that the communion will take place as usual in the chamber below. He intends to have you transported there eventually. We don't know when yet. He'll have runners send us word." Florina felt her mouth go dry. "So why?" She broke off at his gesture. "Your garments," he said quietly. "Remove them." Trembling, Florina turned away. "Gulgrin," she whispered, "please go." His face went white. Despite her fear, she went to him, gripping his bony shoulders. "Go," she said firmly. "Whatever he plans for me will be very bad, and I don't want you to see. Please go." He groaned with indecision, swallowed hard several times. Florina released him and stepped back, watching as he skirted around the attendant and slipped out the low doorway. Then she turned to face her bed. With shaking fingers, she obeyed her attendant first. "Now what?" she gritted finally, shivering at the coldness against her skin. Covering herself as best she could, she turned toward the door. Mens grinned back and lifted her staff. Power screamed from the blazoned stone, striking her full across the chest and shoulders. Helplessly she flew backward, her body going numb as she struck the wall and then sank sideways onto the bed. "You may leave," Mens told the attendant. He crossed the room, then heaved a bulky sack onto the table. The attendant blinked. Farina strained to see under eyelids that would not lift, with eyes that would not turn. She struggled in vain to unclench her teeth, move her tongue, make a sound. "You will require at least one assistant," the man protested. "Not for this." Men shook the sack empty. Tools clattered across the table beside the bed. Farina struggled to breathe as the man shuffled out. She felt the weight of Men's body as he slowly sat beside her. "Yes," he said softly, "we're going to be very quiet from now on. No cries or screams or any sound from this at all." He touched with his finger at her throat. "No tears. I think you'll find you can't do that either. In fact—" She heard a low scraping sound as he pulled the chair close, and then the squeaking of wood when he transferred himself to it. "I think you'll be too busy trying to breathe to do anything else." Farina felt his hands seize her shoulders. With a flex of his fingers, he settled her flat on her back onto the bed. "There now," Men said. "Relaxed is so much better." His breath became loud in her ear as he leaned close. "Farina, if nothing else, you are predictable. Now I have the staff and the rest has come to pass. You are mine to kill. I knew you'd come down and try to stop that ritual." "Still," he said after a pause, and she felt him slowly spreading her legs, "I enjoyed our time together earlier very much. No need to stop quite yet." Following Dren's example, Galen guided his little beast near the rocky wall, as far from the icy bank as possible. Beneath his thighs, he felt his shan trembling. The river seemed endless, a twist and turn and plunge of water chewing its way through stone. As it descended, the ice loosened, and the narrow gorge pressed close. Ice cracked underfoot. Chips fell to splash in the churning water. The river roared as its rapids picked up, the white water crashing over boulders and wood. Galen closed his eyes, gripping Mornius in his left hand as he leaned to the right, abrading his shoulder against stone. The wall was solid and secure, while everything else raced by. "We have to keep going," Tarek called out. "It's too dangerous here to stop." Galen heard the message without understanding. A part of him drifted again, moving among the stars. So much of him yearned for the place of his birth, to live again as a maker of light, a servant of the universe, but not a slayer. He had tried too hard to protect his star. He had reduced himself, not his— Galen screamed as the bank collapsed beneath his shan. The beast bugled, its powerful hind legs slipping off the edge, hooves kicking wildly. "Help!" Galen reached with his staff, leaned over the creature's straining neck. The shan's front cloven hooves hammered at the ice, shattered it. The beast fell. Gripping Mornius, Galen hit water cold as ice, felt it closing over his head, stunning his heart. His vision went black. Unable to breathe or scream his fear, Galen tumbled through thunder, through a mind-numbing cold. His knees slammed rock, flipping him over. He caught a quick glimpse of sunlight, the icy bank above his head. Someone else was in the river, sprinting dangerously fast through the churning debris, heavy feet slapping the water. Desperate for air, Galen opened his mouth, choking as ice filled his lungs. Something jerked against his arm, pulling him roughly against the current. Unable to breathe, Galen stared at the world, his eyes wide, mouth gaping. Strong arms lifted him, carried him. Then he was passed to other arms. "Dren, lay him down," said Tarek. "No, not like that, like this, on his side." Galen blinked at the ice on his lashes. Liquid dribbled from his mouth, over his lip and chin. His body jerked as a hand struck him hard between his shoulders, once and then again. Water spewed from his mouth. He curled up slowly, coughing hard. Hands tugged at his clothes, turned him this way and that to remove them. He was lifted, then covered, fur tucked under his arm and chin. Someone held him, cradled him. "You saved his life," Tarek's voice said softly. "Thank you, Giant." "And you," Avalar said. Galen lay limp, too exhausted to move. From in front and behind came voices he knew. His Shan lay dead, slain by Silva after the fall broke its back. He heard how Avalar had leaped to stop his fall, had reached for his staff and missed. His staff. Through the gentle sway of being carried, Galen frowned. She was losing her fear of new magic. Because of him, she trusted too much. "Where is Mornius?" Avalar asked from above his head, as if reading his mind. "Here," answered Tarek. Galen heard a slap of a gloved hand against leather. Dren found it on the ice. Avalar continued on in silence, her big feet crunching the ice. Galen, shivering hard beneath his furs, pressed against her. His whole body ached. His legs felt numb below his knees. "What do you know of him?" Avalar quickened her stride to match that of Tarek's Shan. "How did you find each other?" Tarek cleared his throat. Galen felt a hand touch his cheek, then slide gently to the side of his neck. "Long story." Briefly Tarek pressed with his fingers. "University," Tarek said, responding to some other question Galen couldn't hear. "Something I learned there." Avalar. With a low sigh, Tarek removed his hand. "I know you mean well, but ask him about himself, not me." She slid on the ice, then quickly caught her footing. "I mislike this gorge," she said. "Here we are helpless, should our enemy find us, trapped." Galen felt her shaking her head. "How far did Kildoran say this goes?" "To the foot of the mountain," said Tarek. "This rock beside us is the river's high bank. In the spring, when the snow melts, the river swells." Galen listened in a state of half-drowsing, his thoughts on Mornius, his ancient tool. Through the skystone from Earth he could touch the world, focus his power to heal or fight. Confused, he had killed only once during battle. It would not happen again. No longer did the fetters of sleep bind him. He was awake and aware and able to communicate. Never would he let himself be helpless again. "I am the singer," Galen found himself whispering into the firs.